Jean was on vacation.
We'll call the regular meeting of the New Economic Development Authority for Tuesday, November 12th at 8 a.m. to order. First item on the agenda is roll call. We do have all the members present. We'll go on to item number 2, approve the minutes of the last meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item number 3, EDA Director's Administrative Report. Heather.
All right, good morning. I'll just highlight a few items for you. Under the EDA report on page 10, note one application was received for the limited loan program, and also an application was received for the new small business incentive grant program. And then note under the home buyer assistance loan program, a new application was received and approved there as well. And then under the Garden Terrace report, I just noted it was a big expense month. In addition to the regular monthly expenses, we had the payment in lieu of taxes as well as the payment for the landscaping project, so expenses were higher than normal. Other than that, if there's any questions, I can.
Any questions for Heather? Seeing none.
I'll offer a motion to approve the report.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item number 4.1, Section 8 Management Assessment Program Score. Heather?
All right, this is a report that we submit to HUD every other year. It's an assessment of the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. It's called the Section 8 Management Assessment Program, or CMAP. And the assessment evaluates how agencies are managing their program so they can identify agencies that may require additional oversight. We received a CMAP score for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019 of 85%. This puts us in the standard performance rating category. Since this report started several years ago, I think back in 2000, we've always scored as a high performer. And I had mentioned to you at a prior meeting that I thought we were going to get a lower score this round because of our utilization. We are issuing vouchers all the time. We just haven't been able to. You have to either be using 95% of your vouchers, or you have to be spending a certain percentage of the funding that you receive each year. And we just haven't been able to hit that mark for this last 2-year cycle. Part of what hurt us, actually, is I applied for set-aside funding for the vouchers that have ported out. So we did receive additional funding this year. You know, in hindsight, should I have not applied for it because it ended up hurting our score? You know, we did receive the funding. I hate to pass up the opportunity to apply for additional funding, but I think in hindsight it probably did hurt our score, because then that was more money we had to try to spend, and we were already struggling in that area anyway. You know, it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's a good problem that we don't have a huge waiting list. When people apply and their application is processed, they are getting a voucher right away. We have been in a position in the past where we have been using all of our funding, and so when people applied, they sat on the waiting list for a year or two before they ever got a voucher. And so, I don't know, it's good that there isn't a huge need in our community, and the need that there is being met. But on the other hand, it hurts our score. So it is what it is. You know, we came in at the standard rating this year, or this 2-year cycle. I don't believe it will affect our funding in the future because we're not troubled. So that's good. But, you know, it is disappointing to take that hit and not get the high performer score. That's always our goal. So I'm very disappointed in the score, but it wasn't for lack of effort on the part of the housing staff, I will say that. We have been very busy issuing vouchers.
How many levels are there? Standard seems like it's right in the average range.
There's high performer, there's standard, and then there's two underneath that. I know one is troubled.
Efficient
I
or something like that.
Can't off the top of my head think of the other one. I think it's between standard and troubled. There's another category, but I just off the top of my head I can't think of it.
So it looks like you're beating yourself up a little bit when you shouldn't be, because the standard score
I want
is still not
100%.
bad.
Every time I get
I know.
scored, I want
I
100%.
understand that, but I also think you're being a little hard on yourself, that's
So-
still
Yeah.
a pretty good score.
The letter does call for you to respond with corrective action. Can you just summarize what you think we need to do going forward?
Well, one change we did make recently, and I probably could have done this sooner. We have been issuing the vouchers for 60 days. So once they get the voucher, they had 60 days to search for an apartment. And we have extended that now. We can go as high as 120 days, and we are doing that now. Because of the low vacancy rates in the area, people were looking and they just couldn't find a vacancy in that 60 days. So we've doubled that to 120 days, and I think that is starting to pay off now. Again, in hindsight, I wish I would have done that sooner. So we've done that. People that want to relocate out of our area, we're allowing that. We can deny that if we don't have the funding available, but of course we do, so we're allowing people to relocate if they want to. People that port into our jurisdiction, we're absorbing those vouchers into our program rather than billing the agency that they came from. So I'm doing everything I can at this point to spend the money, and that's what I've been communicating to the field office, that these are the changes we're making, this is the effort we're making. One suggestion they had made is to raise our payment standards to 110% of the fair market rents. We just reset our payment standards and we're at 100% of the fair market rents. And I feel like for our area, that is adequate, as far as what the going rate for rent is in the area for a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, and so on. If we increase them to 110%, yes, it helps us spend our money, but it also helps people lease up in unit sizes that are bigger than what their family needs. And I don't know that we want to go that route, because not too long ago, back in 2010, we were in a funding shortfall, and HUD made us make policy changes to help that money go further. So, are we just in this yo-yo cycle that we're going to do everything we can to spend money, and then all of a sudden we're in a funding shortfall, and then we're having to go back, and it's upsetting to families when they feel like you've taken something away from them, and lowering payment standards or reducing the size voucher they can get for their family. It was a painful process to go through back in 2010, and I don't want to end up there again. So I'm a little bit resistant to their suggestion to do that. But of course, it's a board decision. It's something we could do that would help us spend our money, but I don't know that that's our only goal. I think our goal is to help as many families as we can with the funding we get. And we haven't been able to fund our full program of 124 vouchers, for many years. If I was spending all the money I was getting now, we'd maybe be able to help 100 families.
How do you see the opening of Emerson Union Apartments changing this situation?
I think it will help our program because they are a landlord that will accept our vouchers. First of all, we're assigning 4 of our vouchers to the building, but in addition to that, they'll accept the tenant-based vouchers as well. And we don't have a lot of landlords in the community right now that do work with our program. So to have another landlord with 49 units willing to accept our vouchers, I think will help.
So the lease up is really the funding, and it sounds like with the 120-day window, that would probably resolve that first 0
Yeah, we made that change a couple months ago, and I have like 6 slated to go onto the program for December. And some of those have had their vouchers for quite some time, but they are now leasing up. So we're starting to see the payoff from that change.
So this other item, this deconcentration bonus, can you describe, without
That-
going into a lot of detail?
That doesn't apply to us. That's for larger cities
kinda
that
what I-
have areas of the city where there's a lot of poverty.
Right.
And for our size community,
Okay, so there's
we
no way
don't.
we'd probably get a high score in that anyway. because
we
just
aren't
saw-
even scored on that.
Oh,
That's,
but it didn't say NA.
no, it should, but
Oh.
it's not hurting us.
Okay, okay. Well, that's good. So really, it's just that one item.
It's the indicator 13 lease up, we got a 0.
Okay,
And that's where we
okay.
lost, I think, 15 points, and we would have had 100%.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard to get concentrated in the city of New Ulm. I mean, it's just not big enough.
Yeah, it really, that
And that's
doesn't
why I
apply
was
to us.
kind of questioning, what could we possibly do to improve a score there? But if it doesn't apply, it doesn't apply. So
Mm-hmm.
really, it's just the one item we need to, and it sounds like you've already addressed it, so.
Yeah,
I agree
I'm
with
trying.
Les. Stop beating yourself up, so.
All right, any more questions for Heather? Seeing none?
I'll offer the motion to approve the report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
I don't know if we need a mo,
Oh,
because
no, we don't.
we're receiving this
I'll just
report.
receive-
Just to receive it, right?
We can make a motion that we receive the
Receive it,
report,
yeah.
though.
That's, I guess, what.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item number 5, Public Housing Assessment System Score. Heather.
All right, so along the lines of the CMAP score, we also got our score for the public housing program, which is called the FOS score for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019. This is an assessment that we have received every year. They are looking at, did I list it? Yeah, they evaluate 4 areas, physical condition of the building, and that's our REAC inspection that we get every 3 years, financial management of the program, so that's collecting tenant rent, lease ups, that sort of thing, and then our capital fund program, are we obligating and spending our money in the required time frame? So those are the areas they look at. For the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019, we received a score of 94%. And new this year, so we've always scored high performer, and that's anything 90% and above, so we would be in the high performer category here this year. But new this year, they have a small PHA deregulation status that we qualified for. So that means going forward, we'll have the assessment every other year instead of every year. So, a little bit less paperwork for us. Not really. We still have to, do our day-to-day work. So we'll just receive a score every other year. Because we haven't had a REAC inspection for several years, that score from our last inspection carries over. And then the only other area we lost a couple points was under management, and I think that was, we had, at fiscal year end, there were some tenants that hadn't paid all of their June rent yet. So I think that's where we lost a couple points.
Do they give you a detailed report as to what it is? Nothing? They
No,
just
what
kinda-
I get is the attachment that you received. No, they don't, so I'm kind of guessing, but in looking at what they look at under management, one of the things they look at is, was tenant rent paid on time? And we do allow our tenants to make a payment agreement if they need to spread their payments out through the month. And then sometimes they'll come in on the last day of the month, right at the end of the day, and they'll pay, but it doesn't get in the bank until the next day. So it looks like our rent wasn't paid. And I think that's what happened.
So like physical as well, you don't know what it is that's the issue, which it could happen again in 2 years, the same thing, if we don't know.
Oh, on the REAC inspection, we do know where we lost points, and we've, corrected those issues, but now we'll get a new inspection, and there could be new things they find that are completely different than the last inspection. So We always do our best to go through our properties and make repairs prior to that inspection. One change they have made, we used to get about a month's notice. And to go through 50 properties and make a list of repairs, get all the repairs done prior to the inspection is a huge chore. It's a big use of staff time preparing for these inspections. They've now changed that. They give us a 14-day notice, and there is no rescheduling. If you reschedule, you get a 0. So now they give us 2. It's like there's this initiative to have people get out of public housing and convert the program to other types of programs, and I think this is one way they're trying to kind of squeeze us into wanting to get out of public housing.
Ongoing maintenance is continuous though, right? I mean, it's not just, you don't wait till the,
Right. We
prior to the inspection.
encourage our tenants to let us know if they need a repair so we can keep up on it. But there are tenants that just for whatever reason, they don't want to make waves or they don't want to bother anybody. So we'll go in and inspect for the REAC inspection, and there's like a 20-item punch list. And it's like, why didn't you let us know that you had all these, things that need to be done? And we do go through and we do annual inspections. We try and get in the apartments and but it's an ongoing process, and the buildings are aging and there's just more to keep up on. And we have a part-time maintenance staff, 25 hours a week. And that includes mowing the lawn, snow removal, and all kinds of other things. So, yeah, it's something we do try and keep up. And I think we do a good job, but the inspectors always want to find something. If they don't find anything, then they feel like they're not doing their job. And so,
I've heard some
a lot of
really
work.
nice compliments on the new maintenance folks there, just for your,
I think you're
Knowledge.
talking Garden Terrace. We're talking Broadway House,
okay.
Yeah.
I was.
but still good to hear.
Yeah, yep.
So, in any case, like I say, you've seen the score. Now we'll qualify for every other year, so.
I'll offer a
Helps.
motion to receive the Public Housing Assessment System rec report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item number 5.2, approve the EDA November 12th, 2019 claims list. You have it in front of you? Anything jump out, Heather? Nothing? It's normal?
It was a little higher than normal. We did have 2 showers that were leaking that after investigating and having other city staff look at it, we actually had to replace the whole surround for the showers. So you'll see materials came from Design Home Center, and then Brad Kroll did the labor. And then we also had a bill for GOG sheet metal to replace the shower valves. So that was an expensive repair for those 2 apartments. And then also we had flooring, we had a turnover. Other than that, and then on the very end, this Wheeler Hardware Company, that was a repair for our keyless entry system at the Broadway House. So, yeah, it was an unusually high month.
Thank you. Any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the EDA November 12th, 2019 claims list.
Second.
Second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item number 6, Small Business Development Center Service Agreement.
All right, good morning. We've been talking to the Small Business Development Center out of Mankato to see if they would increase their presence in the New Ulm area. There's been a relationship between the community of New Ulm and the Small Business Development Center in the past, but it's been a little haphazard or, as needed, whatever. But we've really tried to see them as a necessary resource in helping our entrepreneurs and small businesses and getting the resources here instead of sending our citizens and residents over to Mankato. So we've worked with them to put together the proposal that you have in your packet today. We'd like to be authorized to execute that agreement with the Small Business Development Center for 2020. Some of the things that they propose would be to do quarterly consultant cafes that allow entrepreneurs here access with the consultants in sort of a drop-in situation. We would have a dedicated SBDC consultant for 2 full days. We would figure out what works best. Is it 4 half days, but a total of 2 full days a month. They would also sponsor quarterly business training events. And then there's a new service that's called BizLink North, which is about business succession. And so they would work with up to 10 businesses in our area with that. With this increased presence, we have space in the city hall that we can put that dedicated consultant. There's lots of places they could go, but Chris's suggestion was it's nice if they could be here. So if they need to talk to somebody in building inspections or whatever, all those resources are right here for them. So I'll entertain any questions or thoughts.
What have we been paying in the past?
We have not been paying in the past. So SBDC provides their consulting services for free on an individual basis.
We do give them a stipend
Oh, you
every
do?
year of,
Okay.
I believe, 1,500, 1,000 or
Oh.
1,500, I can't remember. but
Small amount.
Does that come out of the city budget?
That's out of the city budget.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, I was not aware of that. But they provide their services to individuals at no cost. They receive funds from the Small Business Administration. But this is to get a more organized and coordinated presence here in our community. And we're asking, so it's not an on-demand. We're asking them to schedule dedicated time in our community to really build those relationships and build up our entrepreneurial system.
Do we know how many businesses they're working with currently in New Ulm?
No, we do not, but we know in 2018, they delivered 600 hours of consulting services to New Ulm clients. So the value of SBDC services to New Ulm is over $32,000.
Seems like a lot of money for 24 days. I mean, we could add a little bit more to that and have a full-time person.
Explain.
Having somebody full-time to do, I don't know, it's 30,000 is a huge amount of money for 2 days a month.
Well, it's 2 days a month plus
Plus
their
the-
leadership and the 4
plus the
consulting
advertising.
cafes, 4 quarterly trainings that they will facilitate. They'll provide the trainers for. We're not going out and
That's
finding
true.
a trainer. I think from my experience, when I hear that the Small Business Development Center has been working with someone, my confidence level goes up with that entrepreneur, that they've been seeking the help they need, getting set up right from the beginning. And, this puts that here, dedicated time instead of as needed or as desired. So it is, yes, it's 2 days of a dedicated consultant, but it's all the other stuff.
So if somebody was working with this company, could they wanted more time than that, they could go to Mankato and see them over there.
Yes, and it's not a company, it's a Small Business Administration, center.
But we have gotten 600 hours last year.
Yes, and that would be the majority of that would have been one of us or somebody at the chamber, whatever, would have said, you need to an entrepreneur, or a small business owner, you need to reach out to the Small Business Development Center and access their services. So that was a real one-on-one situation. I think what we're trying to do is help create more awareness of entrepreneurial opportunities, and create a culture that is more open to entrepreneurs with their presence here. So yes, we have gotten 600 hours already without a dedicated presence. How much more could this boost our community?
So if we have 2 full days, and we know people's lives are busy, businesses are busy, and they'll do it, I'll do it next time, I'll do it next time. Is there gonna be some type of schedule where they can already pre-sign up to fill those 2 full days? Or is it just, well, I'm here, come and see me? Because then it won't happen.
No, it's going to be they have to call the SBDC to make an appointment to come here. So it is a scheduled appointment that they essentially have to keep depending on what that works out, whether it's, 4 half days a month or 2 full days, depending on how that schedule fills up. So it still is on the entrepreneur to call the SBDC, but they can say, well, we have a field rep coming out on this day. Does it work for you to just wait until this day to actually be here in New Ulm? Because what you find out happening is, if I'm an entrepreneur and I'm forced to drive to Mankato, so I'm driving to Mankato, all of a sudden I see a storefront in a downtown right across the street from the SBDC that I'm getting help at. Well, why don't I just open a store there? There's been a couple cases like that where people have just driven to Mankato and be like, I'm going to open up shop here instead of in New Ulm. So this, again, also helps out with the notion that you need to come to City Hall for something, because people don't come to City Hall for permits. They don't come here for a lot of things. So if you have the SBDC in City Hall, you have an entrepreneur, a captive audience that is getting the help they need, then they can walk over to planning and building and see what kind of permits they need to start their business. And it's not all of a sudden it's like, well, the city's asking me to do this. I didn't know I had to do this thing. So City Hall no longer becomes an afterthought. It's somewhere they have to come to get some of the services. And then there's no hidden surprises down the road when, Elwood goes out to inspect and it's like, oh, you need to do X, Y, and Z. It's already kind of preloaded into the services, and we become a one-stop shop instead of piecemealing our services together. There is, definitely a value in there. And once the community, sees that we're reaching out to the SBDC, like Audra said, and we're looking for entrepreneurs to come in, to open up shops. Because, again, that's what downtown eventually is going to be. It's going to be your entrepreneurs coming in, because big box retailers, that's not going to happen. And it's driving that spirit and showing that, yeah, we want you to open up business. We're open for business, and this is where you need to start and get the expertise. Because again, the SBDC will help them with their business plan, and most businesses will fail if they don't in the first year if they don't have a business plan, and that's kind of the really big portion of it. And once SBDC gets here, we'll actually tie them into the small business grant too. They have to attend one of their workshops in order to even qualify for the grant as well. So it'll kind of be, yeah, we'll give you money for your business to start up, but you also have to use the services provided as well.
So just, are there any other communities that we could look to that have, paid this $30,000 fee to them to see if they've seen some success from it, or how do they assess or account for successes, like after a year later from now, if we were to provide the $30,000? I'd be curious to see what kind of results. And it just appears to me that what we're getting then is planted in the community services, and then they're going to do quarterly events to raise awareness of their presence in town that maybe we don't get or see today. Is that?
Yep.
Okay.
I was paying $200,000 when I worked in the city of Long Beach for these services. Again, it was every, I think, Monday and Wednesday we had full day services, and then we had the workshops quarterly as well. They didn't have the consulting cafes at that point or the succession tools, but we were paying a lot of money, and that consultant was booked every Monday and Wednesday for the 6 years I was there.
So do you know, Audra, are they in other communities?
The city of Waseca has worked with them a little bit. We are probably a couple steps ahead of them in trying to formalize an arrangement with the SBDC. They're also having the challenges of their services are needed, but they're having to change the delivery of their services because people are so busy. They recognize that they need to partner up as well with other communities and other economic development organizations for the delivery of their services. So it is for 1 year. We will, stack it as best as we can and, use our partners in the community to promote this as much as we can. I think what Chris mentioned about the spirit in this community, we do need entrepreneurs,
Yep.
and we need to be
Yep.
friendly to them. So this is a part of saying, we need you. We're going to try and make this as accessible as possible, but we want you to stay in our community too. We don't want you to, go somewhere else. So it is a little new for us, and it's new for SPDC too. But they are a relationship-based organization, so that helps.
Would the 30,000 kind of cover the costs then for those events, for the spaces, for promoting it? If there's any additional advertising and stuff, like, does that cover? I mean, are we getting that? Is that all included with this then too, or is there going to be additional things we'll be paying for on top of that, or?
That's a good question. I think once we get the schedule figured out and the rollout, we'll determine if there's additional costs, but I'm pretty sure we could figure a way out to working with regional community partners not to have that. Could we work with Region 9? Could we work with SMIF to help push these things through their networks too? Probably. I can't guarantee that, but SPDC is pretty well networked as well.
Do you think if we were to support this for a year, that a representative would come back a year from now and just kind of give us a progress report, to the EDA, saying, hey, this is what we've been able to accomplish over this last year?
Sure.
I'd be supportive of it, but I'd like to see, just to make sure that our money's being well spent, I guess. And I have a feeling it will be. I think that you're absolutely right. We kind of need, and I'm not trying to say, I'm more excited that we'd be one of the first communities, if it's innovative and it's going to be effective, than one of the last communities that's going to have partake in this, and then we're kind of behind the curve. So, but we'd rather be in front of the curve than behind the curve on something like this.
Well, and we sat here 6-7 months ago saying we wanted to do something besides building houses.
Exactly.
We weren't very good at that. So I support this as well. I think it's worth a shot. Let's see what happens. I would assume this group would also work with Retail
Yeah.
Strategies group to some degree.
To kind of
Sure,
coordinate
well,
our efforts. Yeah, absolutely. This could be a resource if say Retail Strategies found a business, and their business model might be, they already know what they're doing, they want to come to the town, but I would think this center would be able to provide a local flavor to,
Right.
hey, this is kind of how the
Make
things
it
work
happen.
locally, and we can push. And then if we come in with either our grants or our rehab loans or other resources that the EDA could provide, the three of us could make this happen for some of these entrepreneurs.
So yes and no. So Retail Strategies, again, they're working with national chains, and the SBDC isn't working with national change. They're primarily an entrepreneurial-based business model. So what you would see is if someone was looking at doing a franchise, being a franchisee, that would be part of SBDC's purview. But if let's just say Target at the end of the day was coming, they're not coming to the SBDC. It's very much your franchisees and your smaller, mom and pop, entrepreneurial based businesses that would use the SBDC services. But your larger big box retail, which is kind of what Retail Strategies primarily focus on, wouldn't take advantage of these types of services. What this is going to do is realistically help, Red Dragon Gaming is a very good example of a business that's thriving downtown that could have used SBDC services, although I don't think they needed to. They really did a lot of research, and their business plan was actually one of the best I've read in a long time. But businesses like that, the new store, clothing store that's opening up, could be a candidate for something like that. But, again, this is their second store, so they wouldn't be able to take advantage of that. But it's, the people that, the residents that are at home that may do something, out of their garage or just kind of home-based and want to get into a storefront. This is that mechanism to help them get there, what they need to do, some of that expertise on things that a business owner that runs a home-based business may or may not think about, like paying rent. You're like, oh, you're making this much money now to cover your house payment. Well, you also need to cover rent now in this new building, utilities, kind of those things. Working with the SBDC, again, back in California, this is an invaluable resource. And if we're one of the first cities to start doing this, I think it puts us in a really good position, and with, redoing our website and becoming, having a dedicated economic development page, we can put this front and center as being a one-stop shop and getting out there that, yes, New Ulm is open for business. We're here to help the entrepreneurs, anyone looking to relocate here, whether it's a small manufacturer or a small business. We're open, and we want you here. I think that's the message that's been lacking, and this right here will help push that forward.
And just to clarify, they help retail, but it is restaurants, it is small manufacturing. They are very good at helping for succession plans, and we clearly have some businesses in town that are at that point where they're looking at succession plans, and they can help with legal help, HR help. So it is small business. It is not a retail development center. It is a small business development center. And so they have a very depth of services they can provide. They have a dedicated HR person. So consider all of the small businesses in our community, plumbers, little manufacturers, they are able to help all of them.
So this is a new concept from their side also, correct?
Correct.
And I mean, to me, the 30,000 is kind of derived off of what they did last year for free in Mankato. So is this a take it or leave it, or is there some negotiation? We like this concept, but we're basically paying for what you provided last year for free, albeit in Mankato. So can we go back to them and say, you know what, based on what you've put together here, we'll pay you 20,000. Is that?
I think it covers staff time, essentially. So them now, instead of the entrepreneur having to drive out there and being a cost to the business owner, it's them coming out here. So it's them having to pay staff to be here instead of sitting in their office where they would normally be, and then that mileage too as well, coming out here.
Does that add up? I mean, I don't know. Based on what they're offering, I'm not trying to be naysayer here. I'm just asking the question.
Yeah, where did the 30,000 come from? Was that from them or from us or from?
It was through negotiation with them.
Okay.
Oh, it was.
We gone back and forth a couple of times.
Okay, Mike,
on
I assume they said this is what.
the document you have is the result of 3 pretty good conversations back and forth on what we
okay.
felt would be appropriate in our community for the community of New Ulm to increase the presence and awareness of entrepreneurial stuff and
So
small
that
business development.
negotiation had taken place.
Yes.
Got it.
Again, I think what we're getting is more on-site services for the $30,000 rather than
Right.
at their, and I mean, to that end, I think, I think it's the $30,000 gamble is worth it, but what I'm looking for is just the accountability, a year from now, if we were to go ahead with this, just to make sure that the money that we've agreed to offer to them has been well spent, and we can see some measured results from that. Then we can make a better assessment a year from now as to if this is something we want to continue to do, or if the original arrangement
I
kind of
agree
meets our needs.
wholeheartedly, and also the delivery mechanism. Is this may need to be tweaked? Is it?
Is it tweakable? Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
This is kind of getting us to this point. But now we're looking for the ADA's approval to keep moving forward and to execute this agreement. But we are able to tweak it because, again, if something's not working, why keep doing it? Let's fix it and make it work. But this is about getting this conversation started because we want to do this in 2020. We want to start, soon with promotions and getting this knocked out so that we can get that calendar all figured out and then start releasing it to the community, but also to our promotional partners.
Is there an out clause in your agreement? Like say this just simply is not working? Or should there be?
To me, I don't think there should be. I think realistically, when we put this together, there's going to be, let's go early, I'd say February, March. You're probably not going to have tons of activity just due to weather, but You know, in summer, again, because everyone enjoys the sunshine and is not really around, summer months are going to be fairly light as well. But you figure January is probably going to be really good. April, May, you know, probably August, September, November, we'll have really good outcomes. You know, and to me, you let it go for a year. Again, it's pretty much, how do we tweak this program? Because again, it may be, you know, maybe having someone in the office isn't worth it, isn't a thing. But if we can convert the office into, let's go, a teleconference room where an entrepreneur can still set up a time, come in and sit down, and then they just telecommute instead of, you know, actually having physically someone there. You know, that is something that we can look at if SBDC has those capabilities. You know, again, it's very much a framework for what we would like to do in this community to help entrepreneurs get to where they need to go, and showing, again, that we as a city are in favor of these businesses starting, and how do we provide those services that they would otherwise have to drive to Mankato for. You know, I would say we just write it out for the year, good, bad, indifferent, and just see how it plays out. Again, very much a small price tag for the services here, especially when they're conducting, you know, the how to start your business, how to write a business plan, financing, and things like that, that'll answer a lot of questions. And then they can follow up with the one-on-ones as well.
The 2 full days, they are strictly so that we're looking at 24 days plus the quarterly business training events.
Yes.
Okay?
Yep.
So is there going to be the same consultant, or is that going to change as to who's available?
Well, I think it'll depend a little bit on who the entrepreneurs are and the needs that they have. It will not be the same consultant all the time. So I think it will depend on what the need is. You know, if it's 3 restaurants, then send us the restaurant person. Don't send us the HR person, you know. So it depends, going to depend on what the need is. And then we can have some feedback into them as to what we think and what their clients are saying would be good trainings. So, you know, if it is writing a business plan or getting financing, you know, we have some, you know, they're going to be looking for us to provide some of that, what we think is valuable. It's similar to retail strategies. You know, they're the expert in helping small businesses. We know maybe we can talk to bankers or realtors and say, what are the issues that you hear small business people are really having, and kind of find that sweet spot in the middle.
So are we paying their mileage and expenses in addition to the 30,000?
Nope, that's part of the 30,000.
That's part of it.
It's all inclusive for the 30,000, for everything we're gonna get.
Yep.
Just a question of you, Audrey, then, how frequently do you anticipate communicating with this representative? What my thought is if you could have some ongoing communication with them, with the monthly sessions and then the quarterly events, could you then just come back and report to that on a monthly basis as part of your economic development report, just to say, hey, you know, a member from the SBDC met with 2 clients this month, and that we can kind of get an ongoing sense of feedback, and then we would know as it goes on if it's really measuring up to what we would hope it would be. And I would imagine that that's part of their job, would be to communicate with you so we could tie in and access some local resources as that development, that entrepreneur plan develops or whatever. Would that make sense?
If the EDA, you know, chooses to proceed in this, then I think I would be meeting with them a lot right now, very soon, to nail down the calendar, to figure out the space, you know, to figure out how we're going to roll this out, so that when, you know, before January 1, we have that plan. And so that if this goes forward today, I would hope to have that plan pretty well roughed out for your December meeting. So you kind of know what we put together. And then in my reports for the month, every month, you know, I would bring, you know, this is what happened in the past month. This is what's coming up, you know. So yes, absolutely.
Is
So-
there an agreement? It says authorize the city manager to execute an agreement. Is there an agreement already drawn up?
No, there is not.
No, so that it would be based off. We'd have Roger draft it based on everything that's in your packet today. So nothing would change. We wouldn't change any of the language as far as what their deliverables are. If Les, you wanted to include an out clause, we could have Roger put that in and see if SBDC accepts that. Which they should be fine with if services aren't being utilized. I figure they should be okay with dropping that out. But again, if you want to put any other stipulations, you can in there.
Part of me feels like we're just hiring another person. I don't know.
So again, it's someone that does, again, you're hiring someone from the SBDC that has the experience with, again, putting business plans together, helping that entrepreneur get their feet off the ground, helping find additional resources. Again, it is a $30,000 staff member that's providing services throughout the year that you don't have to pay insurance for, you don't have to pay retirement for, you don't have to do anything. You're just paying them to come here to help a segment of the community that we essentially need to help, that we should help, that we want to help, especially fill our downtown, realistically, or any of the small manufacturers looking to expand that need that extra little push on how to do it. They're a resource that'll get them there, because for every individual entrepreneur that drives to Mankato, that's potentially one entrepreneur that's no longer going to be here.
Do we have a lot of them in New Ulm?
I would say yes. If they did 600 hours,
Is it just for entrepreneurs?
again, any small business, I mean,
Could they come and ask for services if they're looking for help? Could a small business already established
Mhm.
come and ask for
Absolutely.
help?
Yes.
oh yeah.
So if let's say there's a store or a manufacturer and he wants to expand, but he needs somebody to walk him through the process of, if I get a bigger building, if my utilities go up, can you help me through the process of what does that look like 6 months from now, a year from now? They have resources that could help them walk that through. Or let's say it's somebody who needs to put an HR policy manual together and they run a plumbing business. They would have the resources to kind of help that person walk through that. So it's small business development. Development can be a new business. Development can be an existing business that wants to expand or wants to purchase another business. How do you set yourself up as a small business to buy another one? We've seen that happen in our community as things are changing. Businesses are buying other businesses. And this would be a resource that they could access at no charge locally in their community to help with that process.
I'm just going to ask this question, and I think this is a wonderful idea, but isn't that what New Ulm is supposed to do now? Is help our small businesses and to grow our businesses and our economy?
That it is.
But this is a way to do that.
Yeah, I think this is,
We
if
need
you look
this
at the
tool.
core mission of the EDA, it's exactly what you just described. But that being said, I think what they offer here is a higher level of expertise catering to the small business. A larger business is, like you alluded to earlier, a Target's not going to need to develop an HR manual. They've got staffs of people that just focus just on that very topic. But a small business, if you're a plumber, you may not be an expert. You know how to, put pipes together and put in heating and all the various things that plumbers do, but you may not be an expert on HR policy, and there are federal and state laws that relate to how you treat your employees, and they can go to this outfit as a resource for that. I don't think the city of New Ulm per se has people dedicated to doing those specific tasks, but this is what this would do. And I honestly, I support it, and I really hope it succeeds. I'm just, the only thing that leaves me a little bit skeptical is like, well, they've done it in the past. Now they're asking for a pretty good chunk of money to do what they've done in the past. But I think what we get for it is more dedicated and focused on the community of New Ulm. We get some of their specific time to focus just on our community and not every other community in the region that they probably provide for. So I kind of like that aspect of it. It'll remain to be seen. That's why I want some accountability. But I think that in the long run, I really hope they do. We do this, and I hope they do succeed. I hope a year from now, we're going to have some success stories that we can come back to and talk about and say, hey, this is how this worked. Yes, it was money well spent.
And Susan, to answer your question, yes. I mean, that is really what New Ulm, should be doing. This is a portion of it, but as the city itself, so when we look at economic development from the city's perspective, it's, a business owner, so they can go to the SBDC for that very technical assistance. But once they leave, that office, we can help with the permitting process. We can help with finding a location for them. We can help them, look at different incentives through state, federal, even the incentives that we offer. We can get them through that permitting process so nothing's a surprise. But, as far as writing a business plan, yeah, I can write a business plan. Am I an expert at it? No. If I read a business plan, can I tell you a good one from a bad one? Yes. Where the SBDC is really that technical assistance for someone who has no idea how to write a business plan. They can bring here's my idea, here's my rough draft, and they'll walk them through it. As long as, the entrepreneurs have those questions, very specific questions that, they can answer. But it's City Hall becoming that one-stop shop now. I don't have to drive to Mankato. I can come to City Hall. I can get my technical assistance. I can get, the economic development assistance as far as site selection assistance, incentives, loans, things like that. That's what we can help those entrepreneurs with. And then, planning and building will be there, so we can help iron out some of those kinks in planning and building to get sometimes a plain English answer versus the code says do this. Well, why does it say to do that? And then same thing with utilities. Now they can come here, they can set up their utilities, and it's everything in one stop instead of having to kind of piecemeal everything together. We become a destination for an entrepreneur, not a roadblock.
If one of those 2 days, why can't we have the person come on the Tuesday when we're meeting to give a report?
Absolutely.
I mean, as long as they have to come to meetings, make them accountable, have them here, bring us something which you've been doing, or what their company has been doing.
Yeah.
So that we know.
So they would come during their allotted time to one of our meetings, is what you're saying?
Why not?
Well, we're paying them $30,000, right? I don't want them to spend some of the $30,000 just to come to talk to us. I'd rather have that
Unless it works
$30,000
out
to talk to the businesses.
I mean, getting the data will be easy enough. I mean, they'll keep track of how many appointments they'll have. They'll keep track of the number of attendees at each, workshop that they do, the cafes, which they can easily give us. And
Quarterly
it could be
report
part of-
or a monthly report?
They can do monthly, quarterly, whatever. I mean, I would do a quarterly report, probably a little more meaningful than monthly, unless you wanted to see the monthly. I mean, they could do that as well. Let us know. But that information should be, and we can have the leases just count how many people come in that day as well for at least the appointments. But they should have that information to keep those records because they usually do follow up and things like that. So getting that information to the EDA is not hard in any way, shape, or form. We can do that.
I would hope that their day would be full of at least 8 appointments, 1 hour each, and 5 minutes to spend here would not hurt that at all. That's like take off your shoes, get a cup of coffee, So,
Well, not coffee here,
Bring
but
up coffee.
We don't provide any coffee
and keep your shoes on too, but you know what I mean.
I guess maybe I agree with everybody here in regard, we need accountability, but my question maybe is the delivery of it and 2 days a month may not work into the customer's schedule. And so, when we're say a one-stop shop, well, that's 2 days a month. Well, they have to be able to come back here maybe on a different afternoon to meet with some person that there's some substance there. At the bank, we've sent aspiring business owners to the SBDC if they're starting with a blank page and we need something a little bit more than your idea. buy this piece of equipment to do whatever. And my question is the delivery mechanism and the 2 days a month, if it needs to be more flexible than that. And, I mean, we're still gonna have people going that way to meet with them
Yeah.
based on timing.
Well, and maybe that's how we structure this. We pay $30,000 for a allotted number of hours. And that those hours will be determined by the schedule of appointments that are made with potential clients and members of their staff. Would that be flexible to do something like that?
I would say yes, but I do feel it needs to be a consistent day, whether it's every Monday, every Monday for 4 hours. So that way everyone knows that Monday from 8 to noon or 9 to noon or 9 to 1 or whatever, the SBDC is going to be here. It's not, oh, it's this day, that day, it's that consistent, every Monday for half day, they're going to, or Tuesday or whatever day we pick. However that works out so that it's always the same and people know that, yes, SBDC is going to be here this day. I have to make an appointment this day. I can plan ahead and be like, this Tuesday, I need to be here, and it's not, are they here? Are they not here? It's the, the consistency, I think, will help drive the program forward instead of being a little more sporadic. But again, I think it'll be flexible. It's 2 days a month, and we can split that, like, Audra said, we can split that up into half days. So it's once a week for half a day, and see what works better. Maybe it's, we start out, morning, 1 month of mornings, 1 month of afternoons, and see if there's different levels of interest and kind of survey those people what works better, or maybe it's every other week is just morning, afternoon to kind of just get everyone, you hit both sides of the spectrum, people that can give a morning or people that can give up an afternoon to come and see how that works. But
I also know that the SBDC has been around for a while, and so they keep really good records. And I think if they could tell us, what we're seeing right now is a lot of people that are getting morning meetings, then let's go with mornings. If they are getting a lot of requests for late afternoons, then we're going to have them from 1 to 4:30. But this is what you have in your packet is we need them to set up a satellite here. We need them to come and help us get these resources to our small businesses. This shows an interest on the city's part of being supportive. And the benefit is if it is an evening thing, we have public buildings that can facilitate that. The library can be used or something. So this is really a move from EDA to say we want to support small businesses and we're going to make this accessible. And we're partnering with SBDC, which has already been proven in our community. They're already doing 600 hours. Let's formalize an enhancement of the relationship.
Do you see, obviously the success of this, my guess, is going to be the public knowledge that this is available. Is this something they will then be publicizing that they're in town, or is that something we will have to do?
it'll be both. So we'll do it on our end. Again, push through Facebook, social media, on our website. Probably do a radio spot with KNUJ, and things like that to really get it out there. And then when they do the quarterly workshops, again, taking out small ad in the journal to show here's the schedule, for this quarter's ads, and kind of push those forward. So, they'll do some advertising in there, just standard stuff that they put out, with their workshop schedules and things like that. But it'll also be on our end to really get the word out, working with the chamber, to get that out to its members, and then us just doing it on our end, again, just putting the word out there.
This is not going to stop business owners from, let's say, if they really want to keep things confidential, to go to Mankato. None of our payment or ours is going to be reflected in Mankato, right? It's a separate. I understand the time here, but small business owners and entrepreneurs can still go to Mankato.
Oh, yeah.
And not get charged, and we aren't going to get charged, and our time is not going to be used. Okay, just the understanding.
It's just, it's when they make an appointment here to use, that's when those hours, essentially.
Already there's, in the staff of the SBDC, there are some people from New Ulm on staff. So there's already some very strong relationships with the SBDC. One of their consultants lives in New Ulm and has a business here, so there's some strong connections already. They would like to increase their presence here. The city EDA needs them, I think, to increase their presence here and just help businesses. So this is a way of formalizing what we feel will be helpful to our community.
Do you think people from nearby communities, say Sleepy Eye or Springfield, might come to New Ulm then to utilize these services too instead of driving all the way to Mankato?
I would hope so, yes.
Yeah.
And I think we'd be okay with that.
Any more questions, concerns? I think it's a great program. I think it's something we should pursue and move forward, at least give it a shot for a year and see how it goes.
I'm gonna go ahead and offer a motion to authorize that this contract be developed. From what I heard this morning, is that we would like included some, some way of making sure the accountability piece is in there. So when you have Roger working on that, whether it's quarterly reports or to include that as part of that agreement.
Okay.
Talk to him maybe about an out clause if we need to, and some periodic reports back to us, whether that be quarterly or, you know, that we actually meet the folks here and at least some point. So I'm gonna offer that motion, not to exceed 30,000.
And I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item number 7, Economic Development Director, Assistant City Manager Activity Report. You have it in front of you.
I'd like to be sensitive to everybody's time. Does everybody have a couple more minutes or, okay.
Do it.
So just a couple updates. Childcare, Heather and I worked on a survey that went out to all of the in-home childcare providers in the 56073, right? Okay. So we are getting some of those back, which is great, and so we'll be looking those over. I'm suggesting that Heather and I meet with the Brown County licensing staff to go over those results, just so that they're aware of what we're hearing. And then if there's anything that we feel that EDA can help with, we'll bring that back. But just so that you know, we've been looking at that. I've also been doing a lot of research on, it's called the LOIS, Location One Information System, and it is the state of Minnesota approved commercial properties database, I guess. And a couple other communities use it, and I think it might be the solution for us to use that instead of creating our own database of commercial properties, hook into what the state uses. So when their economic development people go out and recruit companies, they're seeing properties that are in New Ulm. Currently, there's been one on there since I've been here, and I don't know if it's still on there. So clearly we can enhance that, but that's one of the things I've been spending a lot of time on. Other than that, you have my report there, but a couple months ago, you asked for some strategic planning conversation. And so Chris and Heather and I met, and I just have 10 slides to quickly whip through. I know timing, great conversation on the Small Business Development Center, but we'll try some technology here, and I'll just run through this. And maybe we won't get to in-depth talk about it today, but I'll plant some seeds. This slide I'm just going to zip through because it's a little bit of history. I've been reading the Economic Development Authority Handbook from the Minnesota Economic Development Foundation, Positively Minnesota, and EDM, which stands for, I think, Economic Development Association of Minnesota. But that's been good reading for me as I'm learning about my role and how to kick it in this position. So Chris was great. We had a meeting on just talking about economic development, and he laid out that economic development is 4 things. And housing and workforce development, recruitment of new businesses, and retention of current businesses. It's really important for me to have a definition of what we mean by economic development so that we're all talking kind of about the same thing. There's so many needs in our communities that it's really easy to get distracted or to take on stuff that isn't necessarily our role, right? So when Chris kind of laid out these 4 legs, this is kind of the language I'm adopting as we're moving forward. can be tweaked, I understand, but this is kind of what we're talking about. So housing, solutions to meet the community's housing needs. Clearly, I would say the EDA has been working really hard on housing in a variety of ways, and but it's really coming down to, do we have the necessary housing to provide for the people that want to live here and the community's employees? There's public-private efforts to know what that is, and you know, we get reports from Heather. We still hear that it's an issue, so you know, this is something we should still continue to work on. Workforce development. So this is kind of interesting in our community when we think about it, because there's a lot of people working in this pot right now to meet the community's employment needs. If you go on Indeed and put in 56073, you'll get a real interesting slice of the jobs that are open in our community. But in our education sector, the school district is doing stuff. Community ed has classes that, you know, are helping people develop their skills. And of course, the higher ed system. We've got Rasmussen and South Central and Mankato, MSU. And then you have employer provided, which be the customized training. Let's say it's United Commercial Upholsterers bringing in somebody to do a specialized training on a piece of equipment or a program, you know, team building exercise, whatever. And then employers are also providing tuition reimbursement, so their employees can go back to school and enhance their skills. Community provided, workforce development. Think about Network New Ulm. Think about Bridging Brown County. Those leadership development programs, we have some city staff that are participating in those, and those are developing our workforce. Service or civic group opportunities. Anybody in leadership in a service group knows that you do develop your skills in leadership, conducting meetings, things like that. And then government provided. We have a career force office in our community. The DEED and other groups are putting out grants so that workforce can be developed. So the third pillar is the recruitment of new businesses. This is kind of what we're talking about today with the SBDC. New Ulm is a land of opportunity, but for whom? Trying to figure out who would be successful here. You know, I do think that a flip-flop retailer would probably not be successful. I'm not going to say that for sure, but selling flip-flops, which is a Florida summer thing, probably wouldn't work here. So it's figuring out who would be successful, and then to ask some of our businesses, what type of business would you like nearby? That's one of my favorite questions to ask when I go out and meet with people. And I heard a couple weeks ago, a cardboard recycler would be very great to have because of the amount of production in this community and the amount of cardboard that they use. So that was interesting. So if anybody knows a cardboard person, let me know. And then recruitment of new businesses. So this is where we're working on already a couple of things. We got the retail strategies. DEED does this work, regional groups, you know, SMIF, Region 9. We can work the reputation of the city. One of the pages on the chamber lists all those accolades: coolest city, best city to live, safest city, affordable, etc. Work the assets. EDA has land. We have hardworking people. Our location, southern Minnesota, close to other communities. You know, can we work that asset or those assets, and then work the relationship? Who knows someone who knows somebody? Isn't that the way a lot of things get done? Is well, I know somebody who might be interested in putting a shop in or would like to start a manufacturing thing here. So that would be the third one. And then this is where we're talking about small business development, the actual recruitment of new businesses, but the development of new businesses. Homegrown economic development or organic growth. This was something that actually Mike talked about when I met with him one day, that as our businesses grow, that is growing our economic development. When a business of 3 people expands to 4 people, that's growth. So we need to recognize that. And we also need to recognize that there could be spin-off businesses. You know, somebody's got something, but they have a little aspect of their business that they think is viable enough to be another set-aside business. We have manufacturers in this town that also have consulting businesses. So it's actually 2, but it's, you know, it's just the one company. And then identify serial entrepreneurs. And this is what is exciting about SBDC 2 is I think we have some of these in our community, and if there's something that we think would work here to have that conversation. What would it take for you to ... start this, work on this? And here we go, access and support Small Business Development Center and other business growth activity and services. And then this is also a part of the SBDC agreement that you approved today. Develop and promote a friendly to entrepreneur mindset. Entrepreneurs are the risk takers in your community. You know, sometimes I don't understand their mindset, but you gotta love them because they're the ones taking the risk. They got the chutzpah, which means guts, to try something. And so it's good to recognize that they're in our community and support them as much as we can. And then retention of current businesses. Interestingly enough, retention is not the shortened version of retention. I was mixed up about that. It's retend is the word. And retend means to tighten up the relationships with businesses. And I think this is a real opportunity for EDA to step into this. Identify opportunities for service and create win-win partnerships. We are really pursuing the Small Business Incentive Program grants. The conversations I've had with businesses about them is that they feel it's a very exciting opportunity for them. And so we're just tightening up those relationships and making sure that they see the city as a resource to them. Identify and then do they love being in New Ulm? Where can we help? Where are the hiccups or the pain spots? I rue the day when the snow flies again, and you know sometimes we hear comments about snow removal and things like that. Do those have to be pain points? No, we can work through them, but just where can we help? You know, we need to understand what are their challenges and how can we help if we can help. And if we can't help, do we know somebody who can? And then who could grow in New Ulm? You know, keep in mind that the two businesses that are in the industry park right now are two current New Ulm businesses that need to expand. And so there are current businesses already. Are there others that need to expand, and how could we help them in our community? So just in review, these are the 4 areas that, you know, we're working in economic development. And then we wanted to bring some priorities. And I would call them topics of community concern because I don't really know what the answer is yet, but are worthy of conversation. The tight workforce. You know, we've mentioned this here a couple of times about just all the help wanted signs, and I'm sure all of you have heard stories of companies looking for people or having somebody that they thought could work. I went on Indeed's search. I did an Indeed search on November 6th, and there were 202 open positions in New Ulm, and 37 of those were over $51,400. So those 37 jobs represent $1.9 million that's held up in salary. It's not transfer income, but it's salaries for work produced. If benefits are 30% of salary, that's $633,000 of benefits out there that companies are willing to provide. And then I just go, you know, the 37 jobs at $51,000, let's say that represents 120 new residents. 20 of them are under the age of 4 and need to be childcare. This represents 30 families that need homes, 30 spouses that are also looking for employment. And, you know, we have these jobs there. So the workforce is tight, and yet by not being able to provide necessarily childcare, workforce housing, other things, we're kind of leaving $1.9 million on the table of salaries. So is there a role for EDA to play in figuring out how do we kind of open it up a little bit? Childcare, First Children's Finance says that we are 110 spots short in 56073. So that's still significant shortage of childcare spots. Workforce housing, this is not new to you. You've been dealing with it for a long time. And then downtown revitalization. This is another community concern. Hear it all the time. We have not seen back the downtown assessment that the downtown action team, we haven't gotten that report back yet. So I'm assuming once we see that, you'll probably hear it, you know, or see some sort of presentation here. But those are 4 of kind of the areas of concern that we don't really have a formal plan with, but they're kind of hovering. And there might be opportunities for EDA to step into some of that. So, moving ahead, would, want to know, how do you want to move ahead with tackling some of those issues, or having an expert come in and talk to you about some things? Internally, what we're looking at is cleaning up the loan grant forms, making sure that they're on the website in a way that can be technologically filled out, web-friendly. I'm going to continue to research that LOAS system with the state ED office, and then working on business retention visits. So that, there's some work happening on internally, but would look for some feedback on this, just those topics of concern or areas that you think we should be prioritizing.
Anybody got any questions, Roger?
I think it's a great presentation, and I think because of time, we probably should move it to the next agenda. But there's certainly some topics that I would like to spend some more time on. And where does the EDA want to focus our priorities? And so I think if we can move that to the agenda for next month, that'd be excellent.
Can we get a copy of this sent to us, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, one more question?
I'll offer a motion to accept the EDA Economic Development Director, Assistant City Manager's report.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none? Motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. No more business. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.